Hey everyone, and welcome to our very first episode of the Divorce Coach Diaries. Today, I wanted to just give a little introduction, tell you a little bit about myself, how I've become who I am today. My name's Meg. You can find me on all the platforms as at Meg the Divorce Coach. I grew up in an amazing family with incredible, loving parents, and I got married really young. I was 20 when we got married, almost 24 when I had my first baby, not even 30 when I had my third. And after a lot of years of some really hard and complicated things, I decided that I wanted to get divorced. And like I'm sure many of you, I never thought that would be part of my story. And it was a really hard chapter. And yet, on the other side of it, I am stronger, happier, healthier than I have ever been, for sure, in my adult life. I've been a coach for a few years now, and I am an expert in supporting women leaving toxic partners. I found coaching several years before I knew how important it was going to be in my life. And I started maybe just like a lot of you in listening to a podcast. And I started getting really interested in these people that would call themselves coaches rather than therapists. I found a couple that really resonated with me, and I just found myself over and over again loving what they had to say. And one of those coaches was Jody Moore. Maybe you've heard of her before. And I listened to every single episode that she put out. And finally, a few years in, I signed up for one of her coaching intensives that she used to do. And after that first day, listening to somebody get coached in real time with a real problem that they were dealing with right then, my mind was blown, and I knew that I would never see things the same way again. And I know that sounds really dramatic, but for me, it was really true. And so I also knew that I was dealing with some things in my life that I didn't want group coaching for. And so I researched a little bit, and I found myself a one-on-one coach. And at this point, I had had a few years of really regular and really needed therapy. And there came a point where my therapist, who I just love dearly and will always be indebted to, she kept saying to me week after week, "You're healthy. You don't need to be here anymore. You're good." And yet I just felt like this could not be as good as it gets. And so when I really decided to spend a little bit of money and purchase that coaching intensive and then hiring my own coach, I knew that that was the exact right step for me. And since then, I have continued coaching as well as intermittently therapy. And the way that I like to think about it is that a therapist is a little bit more like a doctor or a physical therapist, but a coach is like a personal trainer, where therapists or physicians, they get you from unhealthy to kind of a middle ground, baseline, well-functioning person. But for me, once I was at that point, and I needed trauma therapy for sure. And I did that after I was finished with that, and where she kept telling me, "You're healthy, you're good, you're doing amazing, you don't need to come here every week." Once I really committed to coaching and to actually trying to implement what my coach was telling me every week and the things we were working on, that's when I really felt like I started to become really strong and healthy. And I think coaching is much like anything else that we hear about, where it is a tool and it is really valuable, but just like anything else, it's not going to be as valuable if it's used in isolation. So it's one really important tool of healing and becoming the best, strongest, most capable, most resilient version of you that you can become. And for me, it was like the more coaching that I got and the more I listened to, the more I tried to implement, the more passionately I felt about it. So I became certified, and throughout the years, while I have tried to figure out like who am I going to serve, I just kept coming back again and again to this incredible group of women who have left toxic relationships and just feel like such a victim to their circumstances. And I want to be careful about how I talk about this because while I very firmly believe that it doesn't serve anybody to be in the victim place in their own mind, I want to validate that you may have been victimized and you are not responsible for any of the abuse or toxic behavior that has been inflicted on you at all in any way. And my work with my coach helped me really understand that for real. And now I am at a point in my life where I don't see myself as a victim because it doesn't serve me. And looking at myself as the hero in my story serves me so much better than being in the victim place. And we're going to talk about that a lot more as time goes on. But that is one of the most valuable lessons that I have learned through working with a coach is that I am not the victim. I am the hero. And I prove that to myself day after day after day. And I want to think of myself as the hero in my story. So if you're listening to this episode as your very first one, this is just a little bit of who I am and what led me to this place. And if you stick around and listen in with me, we are going to talk about all things related to divorce, relationships, emotional health, toxic versus healthy relationships, behaviors, how to become emotionally strong, and how to be the hero in your own story, because I believe it about me and I believe it about you as well. So thanks for joining me today for our very first episode here on Divorce Coach Diaries, and I will see you again soon. Have a great week, friends.